Any questions?
You've talked about the use of the internet by terrorists for actually operating their organisation, for recruitment, fundraising and the like. What do you think are the risks of terrorists using the internet as a weapon, as for attacking a country's internet infrastructure?
Well, take Estonia. I think there's a presentation about this conflict between Russia and Estonia about the potential attacks against critical infrastructure, government servers. I think there is a potential. I mean, we see that these attacks are possible. But the question is, are terrorist organizations able to carry out those kind of attacks? And with regard to this, I would just like to refer to a quotation. It's not as current as I would like it to be, but let me just check it. In December 2005, so it's just a rather short period of time ago, the Associated Press cited US FBI Assistant Director stating that Al-Qaeda, and I mean this is one of the top organizations when it comes to the use of information technology, we have to say the fact why we are reporting so often about Al-Qaeda in this context is the fact they're using the technology much better than our terrorist organizations that we do have here in Europe, that they are not capable at the moment of mounting cyber attacks that could damage US critical infrastructure. That doesn't mean that it wouldn't be able that they wouldn't be able to attack smaller countries and their infrastructure. But from my point of view, if Al-Qaeda would be able to carry out those attacks, they would do it. But we don't see those kind of attacks. So I think we have a great difficulty, a great problem when it comes to information technology and security. I see that we base our entire system, something we're heavily depending on a very vulnerable technology. So I would say we have to be really aware of the fact that it can happen all the time. I mean, the internet was never designed to resist against attacks from the inside. So if we have terrorists in the inside, it can of course happen that they attack our infrastructure. And we're using an operating system, or I mean not we, but 95% of the population is using an operating system which has weak points. And I mean, these weak points are used by designers of viruses. Why shouldn't it be used by clever terrorists? But I have to say, I think that those people who are designing the viruses are still way ahead of the terrorist organizations, and they're way ahead of the law enforcement agencies when it comes to this remote forensic tool. So I think I'm not really afraid at the moment, from my point of view, from my knowledge, that the law enforcement agencies will be able to break into my computer without me realizing it by doing it via the internet, and I don't think the terrorists will be able to carry out a big attack against critical infrastructure in most countries. But we have to take it serious, and I think this is something which is happening at the moment. And I mean, let them just take terrorism as a justification. Let them start this discussion about attacks against critical infrastructure with the terrorism. Maybe within this discussion we come to the point that we speak about cybersecurity in general, not only related to terrorism, but that we say, okay, how can it be that we're basing our entire infrastructure, our daily use of communication services on technology which is so weak as we're doing at the moment? Why is there no plan B? Why is there a government that is relying on these services as well, but not able to control it or support the users in protecting themselves? So I think there are many questions related to cybersecurity that need to be discussed. If it is done within the context of terrorism, okay, good. But currently I don't see a great threat, so I wouldn't ask for any additional legislation in this area because it's simply not necessary. We have laws that criminalize attacking computer systems. So these are completely sufficient for cyber criminals. Let them come, let them start to attack, and if we're realizing we're not able to deal with this, then we can think about new laws. But we shouldn't think about new laws before the crimes have even happened.
How could anyone think that the laws could stop the terrorists when obviously they don't care about the laws anyways?
Sorry, I can...
Why would laws prevent them from doing it when, if you're willing to go out and kill someone, you're hardly going to care of breaking into a system? I mean, does not seem... I don't see how law would ever fix the problem. Just with regards to that.
good point, although I have to say, still, I didn't get the entire question. But if I got your question wrong, and please correct me, right, and please correct me if I got wrong, the question was, why do we need specific law for terrorism? And why do, breaking into a system, why do we not refer to the laws we do have? Well, there are some people who say it's an emotional thing. How do politicians work? If there is something happening, if there is a discussion going on, they have to prove that they are really in control of a situation. So if everybody's reporting about terrorism and terrorism in the internet, they have to prove we do something. So they say what we need is what we can do as a lawmaker, we can implement a new legislation in this matter, even though it is not necessary. So we see the same phenomenon in a number of other situations. It's not only with regard to terrorism, but this is a very common way. And as a criminal law teacher, I can only say we have sufficient provisions. We don't need a provision that says theft of cars is illegal. Then the next one, theft of bicycles is illegal. Next one, theft of trains is illegal. We can simply say theft is illegal. So we have the right provisions. We have a provision in the German criminal code as well as the criminal code of the other European countries, because they have all just implemented the new the EU framework decision on attacks against computer system. They all have sufficient laws that are able them to fight against attacks against computer system. So there is no need for a special regulation for other regulations, but nevertheless some countries say we especially criminalize attacks from terrorists against critical infrastructure with a higher sentence. So the only reason why some countries might do it is the fact that they would like to have a higher penalty. So that would be the only reason, from my point of view, why we should specially criminalize acts related to terrorism.
Any more questions? We still have some time.
Why wouldn't, like Bin Laden, he got a lot of money, why wouldn't he rent a botnet or something?
Why would Iran?
Like Bin Laden, he got a lot of money saved somewhere. Why wouldn't he rent a botnet and start his own war?
That's a good question. Well, let's put it this way. I will try to put it on a general level. There is, when it comes to the fight against terrorism, is just a very specific problem. It's just one small problem. When we have a lot of other problems. We have piracy, for example, which is a big problem. For example, in China, I'm teaching in China at university. So when I go there, the first time I went there, I said I'm going to take a few DVDs with me. I'm going to go to the shop now and buy some DVDs. And my brother, who's been in China before, said, "Don't do that. Buy them there. You get the same DVDs there for 50 cents." This is a problem. Why should China address this problem? Why should they fight against this problem? Well, it's international pressure. And we have a number of countries, especially in the Arabic country, that feel a lot of pressure on them in the area of fight against terrorism, because a number of terrorists were coming from their country. I think there was more pressure on those countries where these terrorists were born than on the country where most of those terrorists from the September 11 attacks were based, which was Germany. I think there should be much more pressure on Germany. The question is, why were they all based in Germany? I think there are good reasons, positive reasons, because this is a very liberal country. It's chosen as well by terrorists as well as regular people because they like to stay here. This is something what we shouldn't stop. We shouldn't fight against this. But with regard to those countries that are actually under pressure and are currently really implementing very strong legislations, I'm sometimes really afraid when I read these laws, when I get the draft laws, to analyze them and to write a report, and I see what they implement in their countries. I'm really getting afraid because everything is prohibited. It starts with something like virtual sex is prohibited. When we're talking about illegal content, that means exchanging messages in chat system by saying, "Hey, I love you, take off your clothes." This is already a crime. And the same is happening as over-criminalization when it comes to cybercrime. The same is happening with regard to terrorism. There are a lot of things criminalized in those countries because of the international pressure on them to have adequate laws, or what international I wouldn't even say organizations, but especially the United States government, what they think are adequate laws is really putting them under pressure and makes them implement provisions that I hope will in the future be seen with a completely different perspective, and they might realize, okay, this is something what we simply have to take out of our criminal code again, because these provisions simply don't make any sense. I have to apologize if I'm missing part of the answers, but I think it is already difficult for you to understand me. But for me, without really hearing what you're saying, it's pretty difficult to just guess what you're saying. But if I didn't answer any of those questions, please feel free to send me an email. I would be more than happy to discuss it. Same if you hear anything about this. If you're hearing about anything about successful attacks from terrorists, I would be more than happy just to get information from you, because they're required for my scientific work. So currently, I'm swimming like in the water, not knowing where to go, because those information that are available are so poor. Okay, if there are no more questions, I would like to apologize for stopping the discussion here and run to catch my plane. It was a great pleasure again being here, and I hope to see as many people as possible again when the Chaos Communication Congress is going to take place the next time, or the camp. Thank you very much. It was great being here.